Morning, students. I welcome you all to session 13 of the Tragical History of Dr. Faustus. So, in the previous sessions, you have learned many things about the play. In this session, we shall discuss about Dr. Faustus, Act 3, Scene 2. So, in this session, we hope to learn about Faustus's thoughts on passing time, and we shall focus on his character development. For the first time in many scenes, we see Faustus is thinking about his ultimate fate. He becomes very aware that time is running out and his magical powers will soon end. And as far as his character is concerned, earlier Faustus had dreamt a different world. He says, "Oh, what a world of profit and delight, of power, of honor, and omnipotence is promised to the studious artisan." And we see the total degradation in the character of Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus, a celebrated scholar who was dreaming to become a demigod on the earth, becomes an ordinary magician entertaining the emperor for reward, or playing tricks on the pope and the friars, and taking revenge on the knight, and playing mischief on greedy horse courser. And see, we see the total degradation in the character of Dr. Faustus. And what we hope to learn after this session, we learn to hope of Faustus's downfall from great ambition. See, after receiving his powers from Mephistopheles, Faustus never does anything but trivial and insignificant acts. He resorts to petty tricks and never accomplishes any of the more powerful or noble deeds. In this session, we saw how Faustus visits Germany and conjures up Alexander the Great and his paramour. Here, I want to say one thing. Here, Alexander represents a powerful individual. Faustus too has achieved much power through his magic, but again, there is uh, a disconnection between the grandness of his original ambition to become a king and his behavior here as a mere court entertainer. And we also see the confrontation of Dr. Faustus with the knight Benvolio here. Uh, he grows horns on the head of a knight because the knight had doubted his powers, and this shows the pettiness and arrogance of Dr. Faustus. So this incident where he grows horns on the head of the knight demonstrates how Faustus has become increasingly proud of his magical powers. A horse courser is fancied by Faustus's horse. He wants to buy it for $40. Though Faustus is not interested in selling that horse, finally he sells, and he wants the horse courser not to ride to the horse into the pond, but the horse courser rides the horse into a stream. The horse vanishes in the stream. The horse courser finds himself on the bundle of hay. He comes back to Faustus to collect his money. He pulls off Faustus's leg, horrified, and escapes. And what we should understand through this scene is Uh, Faustus is using his magic to gain trifling sums of money, and he wants to astonish the uneducated, the horse courser. Uh, we also learn that Faustus is quarreling with this low class character over a sum of $10. This once again demonstrates the tragic waste of Faustus's ambitions and power. He is not accumulating immense wealth or empire, he is arguing over an insignificant sum. And we learn that Faustus's horse was conjured out of hay and returned to hay when he entered the water. While this scene is intended to be humorous, it also demonstrates the short-lived nature of Faustus's power. Just like shiny and impressive horse, Faustus's power lacks real substance. He thinks over his ultimate fate, he becomes aware that time is running out and that his magical powers will end soon. And he is fully aware of the reality of death that quickly approaches him. Faustus also recognizes that he is still a man and that man is condemned to die. What we should understand from this is Faustus misunderstands that the purpose of religion is to try to forgive rather than to punish. In this way, on the one hand, he attempts to repent again and again, on the other, he is afraid of not being forgiven. Consequently, Faustus does not pluck up his courage to mend his ways and saves himself from hell. Finally, he falls down from the heavens like Icarus. And we also see the tragic waste of his power. See, after receiving his powers from Mephistopheles, Faustus never does anything but trivial and significant acts. I have already told this. Especially most of the comic scenes again and again show the tragic waste of Faustus's power. Whereas earlier he had thought in terms of large and vast sums of wealth and power, now he is concerned with the insignificant sum of $40. This we see in the horse courser episode. And Faustus, he does not sleep for 8 days. 8 days. We see this when the horse courser comes to meet Dr. Faustus again. We see that um, he is sleeping. Um, this would indicate the spiritual and mental condition of a person. Uh, for example, in Shakespeare's Macbeth, Lady Macbeth is not able to sleep when her conscience begins to bother her. Thus, the audience would automatically know that Faustus is deeply troubled by this by his condition. So we see the mental and spiritual decline in Dr. Faustus. So next, tragic and comic elements what we see in this scene. In most Elizabethan plays, a comic scene is alternated with a serious scene. The scene is constructed differently. Both comic and tragic elements occur together. Scenes of Faustus contemplating the idea of his death are interspersed with scenes of low comedy involving the horse courser. See, in this scene, Dr. Faustus says, um, away, you villain! What, dost think am a horse doctor? What art thou, Faustus, but a man condemned to die? Thy fatal time doth draw to final end. Despair doth drive distrust onto my thoughts. Confound these passions with a quiet sleep. Shh! Christ did call the thief upon the cross. Then rest thee, Faustus, quiet in conceit. So, these words show Faustus contemplates his eternal damnation with an air of seriousness. He seems worried about what will happen to him. Generally, in Renaissance plays, comedy scenes break up the tension between dramatic scenes. But here, comedy and drama exist within the same scene, suggesting that there is no relief from damnation Faustus will suffer. So, at the end of this session, we learned about Faustus's contemplation about time and death, and Dr. Faustus realizes that being a man, he has to die and he cannot become God. And we also learned how he wastes his dearly bought power, and we also learned the how tragic and comic elements are interwoven in this scene. And we should also learn one thing. Although Faustus asserts that he wants a godlike power over the world, he spends of all his time satisfying his senses. He is still pleasing himself with his new powers, and he is still using these powers to satisfy the most trivial demands of other people. And we should understand one thing: Faustus or any other person who begins to make deals with the devil cannot keep a nobility of purpose in the mind. Any bargain with the devil will automatically degrade the individual. MCQs for you. The horse courser buys Faustus's horse for $40. What happens to the horse that Faustus sells to the horse courser? It turns into a heap of straw when it goes in the. What does the horse courser think he is removing from Faustus's body after Faustus breaks his leg? Dr. Faustus visits the court of King Charles V, Duke of Van Holt. Answer is both A and B. What does Faustus ponder about in this scene? Time